I think that hedge funds can teach you a lot about the world and teach you a lot about, I don't know, work ethic. You learn so much about your industry. There's nothing like it. So you get very, I mean, for me, I was very, very, very creative about how to get alpha and differentiate myself from my peers. I would go to any country, I would go to any liquidity, I would go to anything just to get returns. Yeah, some of it worked, some of it didn't, but creativity part was a lot of fun. No, I wouldn't work, listen, I don't need to work for anybody, I wouldn't work for anybody. Some years I make more money than almost anybody on this list. So, you know, hedge funds are a great long-term, steady Eddie business, but there's nothing like being an entrepreneur. You can make $1 billion in a year. None of these guys are doing that really. I mean, 2𝗥𝗧, I don't know anything about the 𝗫𝗫 Academy. I know that, I remember when it started. So 2𝗥𝗧's got 60 billion AUM. I don't know if they're getting 1% on that. Let's say the firm makes 10%. Let's say the firm makes 15%, bang up year, 20% incentive fees. Maybe the two founders get 30% each. So bang up year for 2𝗥𝗧, they get 1.1 billion. That's the top of the hedge fund game. You know, in the entrepreneur game, you're not at the top if you build a $5 billion company and you make that. I'm not saying that, you know, the 2𝗥𝗧 guys aren't doing well. I'm just saying that they're doing very well. You don't get the kind of, right, and they're compounding their LPs in their own fund and they're compounding, that's great, but at the very, very top of hedge funds, it doesn't compare to the very, very top of the entrepreneur world. 𝗥𝗓𝗏 maybe, you know, is a special example, special exception. Yeah, 2𝗥𝗧 is falling apart has been falling apart from a management perspective, but is not falling apart from a financial perspective. But, you know, as an entrepreneur, I think you can make $100 million a year pretty easily. I think it's, in hedge funds, pretty tough. You know, you got to get, you know, monthly numbers really good. You have to have a big pod. Firm has to stay stable, which may or may not happen. But if you use it a lot, maybe it should be more expensive. And Bloomberg never figured out that, you know, some customers want to pay more for more functionality. Some customers don't. They want to pay as little as possible. But you kind of want to cater to those customers that want to pay as much as possible and still provide something to the customers that don't want to pay at all. But the real money is in the people that want the most advanced tools. Wall Street doesn't use Bloomberg software. My co-founder worked at a hedge fund called 2𝗥𝗧, 60 billion in capital under management. So he made software for 2𝗥𝗧. And the problem with Bloomberg is that they never catered to places like 2𝗥𝗧 that use real advanced software. They spend hundreds of millions of dollars every year on software because Bloomberg can't do it for them. If you don't know how to use Godel, you should maybe learn how to use Bloomberg. We do have some tutorials, but we don't have too many videos. The good thing about Godel and Bloomberg is they're backward compatible. So if you learn our system, you learn Bloomberg. If you learn Bloomberg, you know our system. They use all the same keywords and all that stuff. It's just a productivity tool. That's the thing. There's nothing special about Bloomberg, and there really isn't something special about Godel. It's, if you're working all day long on stocks, like me, you do not want to spend a second more than you have to on looking up information. Does that make sense? So you need the fastest CLI possible to look up news, to look up earnings estimates, to look up, you know, prices, whatever. You don't want to go from website to website to website. It just kills your day. And for that price, you know, for the price of productivity, it's worth a lot. I mean, think about it. If your salary is $200K, Bloomberg's only $25,000 a year to maybe double your productivity. You know, so the employer is getting an extra $200K out of you, and Bloomberg's only charging you $20K. You know, you got to make tools for everything that a user finds difficult and annoying. We're working on time series neural networks, which if we move to usage-based pricing, like one of the things we might do, so right now it's like Bloomberg, it's like we're $40. We were $20. So we went from 20 to 40. I don't know what the next stop will be. Probably 60 is what we're talking about. Bloomberg's obviously, you know, 2,500 or something. But, you know, we're not Bloomberg yet. We don't even have bonds yet. So we will. We're working on bonds and foreign stocks and all that stuff as we speak. But, like, the problem is I don't want to do what Bloomberg did. For now, it's our pricing model. But, like, in the future, I think what makes sense is, like, AWS. So at AWS, there's a free tier. And basically what I think is, like, for equities, so if anybody knows AWS, you have, like, EC2. At the end of the month, you get your EC2 bill. And on Godel, I think you at the end of the month, you should get your equities bill. Price increases because we're adding lots of things. One, because we can. Two, we're adding lots of things that cost us money. When Wall Street started, again, I think a lot of people don't understand this. When Wall Street started using software, right? So it's 1980. I'm going to show you software spent on Wall Street and what percent is Bloomberg. Now, basically, I think Bloomberg didn't exist at the time. And this is a log scale, so keep that in mind. So I want to say 1985 is around when Bloomberg started showing up. And here's Bloomberg's kind of like percentage of revenue of the software spent on Wall Street. And Mike knows this. Mike got lazy, man. Mike's my hero, but he got really lazy. He wanted to become president. He wanted to become the mayor. He wanted to do everything but work on his software company. Which is fine by me, man. You do you. I met Mike in 2000. I liked him quite a bit, but, you know, becoming mayor was a weird flex. Around 2000, Wall Street starts changing. The quant funds had started to be like a secret. Not many people really understood quant funds, but people started wisening up and realizing this is going to be a really big space. Bloomberg also stopped growing around this time. Around 2010, the secret's out of the bag. Most of the action is in quant. Bloomberg has no quant features. It's useless to a quant trader. So they missed maybe the biggest trend on Wall Street. Why? Because Mike's not there. Mike didn't care anymore. Trying to be the president, not running a software company. 2015 rolls around. Quants now have a majority market share of smart money. Many stock-picking hedge funds have closed. Many fundamental funds have basically turned into quantamental funds. And now 2020, software runs Wall Street. Bloomberg has nothing to do with it. They missed the whole boat. All the hedge funds use their own software. They cook it themselves. Bloomberg thought the trend was going to be media. So what did he do? He hired a bunch of reporters. He bought Business Week when he should have bought something else. He bought a radio channel, bought a TV channel. He did the exact wrong thing. And he missed this entire thing. Bloomberg is a $200 billion company, does great, fantastic company. You know, if it were public, which I assume it will be some point soon when Mike passes away, it's a $200 billion company. Huge. Mike is one of the best business people of all time. He thought about expanding outside of business software. So what did he get into? He tried to get the rest of this pie. So what did he try to do? Law and sports. Both failed miserably. No, having a terminal most certainly does not make you a quant. So law, sports, and media. Nobody makes money in media. What he forgot was quantitative investing changed Wall Street. He could have gone into information retrieval. He should have been Bloomberg, should have been Google before Google came out. He missed everything. So, great guy, smart guy, but a quant is doing large mathematical analyses on the market. So anyway, let me get back to my pricing model. So I think the whole okay, let's add tons of features to this product. Let's look at what maybe a product could look like. Here's equities. Okay, here's fixed income, big market. Here's currency. That's the most of it of the world. But here's futures, whatever. And then there's a cross section. So think about this going into 3D. But I won't draw it like that. The cross section is sort of news, prices, earnings, and other kinds of functions. And then, if you can imagine, which you cannot, a 4D, the next 4D tesseract, which is, but the 4D part, the fourth dimension for the array is countries. So you've got US, Europe, all the Asian countries, all the rest of the world. and these all fold out into more countries. So that's sort of what a product roadmap looks like. And that's, nothing too surprising. There's a couple elements we're adding that are really not done well by Bloomberg. I should add charts in here. So you basically have this, three arrays or three-dimensional matrix. And so, yeah, I forgot commodities. That's maybe in futures. Okay, so anyway, I hope you're staying with me. So the idea is, okay, you build this Borg, right? Here's, just broadly speaking, asset classes, right? Countries, geography, and the 3x3 matrix is, basically features or information, really. I call them features, but they're a view layer of information. You actually couple the view layer with the business logic, actually. So is it model, view, what is it, guys? What's the stupid frameworks? MV, controller? I guess the model is kind of spread across here. The model is coupled with the data. And then the view layer and the controller are kind of here. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. So you have this cube. Now the problem is, okay, make the cube the best you can. Add more assets. Okay, we have CDS now. We've got baseball cards on here. We've got everything. All the asset classes you can imagine. Then you add countries. All right, we got Zimbabwe. We finally got every country. We got Hong Kong. We've got, Nigeria, excuse me. We've got every single country. All right. Now add features. All right. Anything you can do with these things we're going to do. Now Bloomberg hasn't fulfilled this promise, but they fulfilled the first two. Any possible analysis or something you could do, we want to do it. But if you make this Borg bigger and bigger, the problem is you kind of have to make your price bigger and bigger because you're creating more utility, which costs money, but you're also creating utility which not just costs money, but you earn money, right? This Borg could make your clients a lot of money, and $2,500 really in the big scheme of things at a hedge fund isn't that much. Like I said, if 2Sigma or Citadel spends $300 million on software in a year, that's conservative. Some of them spend $1 billion. I'm going to spend $1 billion on software this year. I mean, how much can you spend on a Bloomberg? Yeah, 20,000 a year. Maybe you have 1,000 people on it. It's only 20 million, dog. I want your whole pie. I want everything. And these are for human traders, really. Bloomberg is not really used by computerized traders anymore. These are just stock jocks, and stock jocks are going the way of the dinosaur. I was talking to one friend from Soros in Point72, and these firms have changed quite a lot into quant firms. So how do you avoid this trap of, okay, make Borg bigger, but what happens, okay, Borg gets bigger, Borg gets more expensive. What happens if the guy says, I just do this corner of the Borg, right? I do US equities. This corner of the Borg is for me. I just do US equities. I'm a fundamental US equities, long, short, and even more specifically, I do one sector. I do this part of the Borg. I don't want the rest of the Borg. I'm never going to look at a bond. I'm never going to look at a Japanese stock. I'm never going to look at a legal opinion. I'm just going to do my part. But you want me to pay for everything. That's why most people listening right now don't have a Bloomberg. Because even though you want just this, they're trying to sell you everything. So the problem is now, if you try to salami slice every part of the Borg and say, well, this part of the Borg costs this much, and this part of the Borg costs this much, it's pretty confusing. What AWS does, and AWS is like this, you've got different services, like S3 and EC2 are the most popular, but you've got about 100 different services. You just got to bill for what you use. And my innovation on this is to cap it. So a cap on equities could be like, I don't know, $200 a month. But that's a cap. So on AWS, it works the other way around, where there's no cap, right? It's metered, but there's no cap. So for me, it's metered, but there is a cap. So if you just go to Godel for 5 minutes a month, maybe your bill should be 10 cents. Just like AWS. I'm sure a lot of you developers out there use AWS as a personal account sometimes. You might get a bill for $1.65, $2.10. You have one T3 instance or something like that, right? You don't log in at all. You close down all your instances. Your bill is zero because you have a free tier too. But let's say, same thing applies here. You log in once a month to check your
I don't know, your 401k stocks, well, you're not costing me any money, so why should I charge you any money? One. And then two, you can get this information anywhere. So it's no reason for me to charge you a ton of money. So I'll meter you. If you go past the free tier, it'll be like a couple dollars. But if you're going to manage your whole hedge fund and use all the equities features, yeah, you might pay up to $200 a month or more. Same thing with bonds, etc. And the nice thing is, if you want to use, let's say you're in, I don't know, let's pick a stock, AMC. And you're long AMC, and you just look at AMC. Maybe your bill is $10. But you want to look at an AMC bond. But the problem is you don't have the bond package. Well, that's a problem because it's in the Borg. There's a whole section here in the Borg for that. But if I charge you for each subpart of the Borg, it's annoying because now you have to buy the whole bond package. It's a lot easier to say, okay, you want to look at bond prices and stuff like that. Maybe your bill's $3 now. So you spent $10 on equities and $3 on bonds. Your total bill for the month is $13. Thank you very much. And there's some way to do it. Yeah, I mean, I think this is the smartest way, Gene. Because if you do what Bloomberg does, and then of course there's engineering for all this stuff. I mean, the best part about this is it allows you to do really advanced features. Bloomberg has a couple, and guess what? They separate them from the Borg. They say, if you want an API, that's over here. You gotta order something special. And they have another couple little things here that are one-off businesses. Yeah, we're getting bonds. And in fact, you got to ask them. It's really annoying. The self-service model is much better. So one of the things Bloomberg doesn't do that we're going to do is pretty simple: neural networks. Not backtesting, live neural networks. Real deep learning. But guess what? Doing neural networks is really expensive. For us as developers, the GPUs, all this stuff's super expensive. How about like co-location and high-frequency trading? Super expensive. And just like AWS, EC2, there's boxes on EC2, like equities is the sort of synonym. But using the EC2 synonym, some people just are never going to do that, right? Like that's why we're mostly targeting professionals. But like we don't want to leave you behind if you've got a $100,000 portfolio, but you're not really our target customer. I want Citadel to get so much value out of it that they're paying me $100 million a year because they're getting $1 billion of value out of it, if that makes sense. Yeah, we're doing student licenses very shortly. It's going to be very good price. So anyway, so let's say you want a neural network module. Well, if you're Bloomberg, how do you do this? You either make it a separate business, or you put it in the Borg and raise the price of the Borg. But for us, it's simple. It's like another EC2 module, just like Amazon does. They launch a new module, no problem. You use it, you pay for it, and it's super expensive. It's $50 an hour. But an hour of equities is 10 cents. Right? So this is literally 500 times more expensive feature. And it doesn't make sense to put it all you can eat in the same price. Right? Like, let me put this really expensive feature inside this amalgamation of features, and you're going to pay one price for it. What happens when you put out a super feature like this? You raise the price a little bit for everyone? It really doesn't make sense. It's, you know what it would be like? And AWS can actually do this. It's pretty funny. Here's how Bloomberg works. And it's so backwards. Imagine if AWS did this. What's AWS's revenue last year? I got that here. I'm a software analyst. Last 12 months, AWS revenue was $98 billion, okay? So we got $98 million, 98,000 millions. Does that make sense? How many customers do you think AWS has? Exactly, Todor, you got it. So this is AWS revenue. How many customers would you guys guess? I'm going to take an average of your guesses. Usually the market's pretty smart. And by the way, for anybody that doesn't know, AWS is the infrastructure that runs the internet. Every company uses them. I think our AWS bill is $10,000 a month, whereas Netflix is like maybe 100 million a month. So anywhere from 10K to 100 million. And some people have $500 bills. All right, so they have, looks like the average would be, they got 2 million customers, okay? So what if Amazon said, all right, Mr. Shkreli, you've been a loyal customer, $10,000 a month for many years. You're kind of a small customer though, and we're going to be changing our prices. Oh, okay, cool. What's the new price and why? And they have the same conversation. A different AWS salesperson goes to Netflix, and he says, all right, Mr. Who's the CEO of Netflix? I don't know. Mr. CEO, you've been a loyal customer, one of our biggest customers, if not our biggest customer. We're going to change the price. And they say, okay, what are you changing to and why? And they say, well, instead of charging everyone a specific price for each feature, we're happy with our business. We have $100 billion of revenue. Everyone's going to pay the same price. Well, let's do the math. Everyone's going to pay, what is this? Well, let's call it, we'll give it a little discount, let's actually perfectly even, $49,000 a year. And the Netflix guy says, wow, amazing. I'm going to save a lot of money. That's only, what is that? $4K a month. Incredible. And then I say the same thing. I say, that's half off, not bad. But a guy who's spending $100 a month says, I'm not going to pay 40x. And the AWS guy says, well, you kind of have to, because otherwise I'd lose money on my Netflix business. And the guy says, charge Netflix more. And this is basically what Bloomberg does. Bloomberg has a lot of users that just use their instant messenger for half the year. I'd say 30% of Bloomberg users are not even using the terminal. They're on 2-year contracts where the terminal's not even turned on. These hedge funds go up and down in size. I once had 6 guys who needed a terminal, and I went to 3 guys who needed a terminal. But they are on 2-year contracts, so I have 3 dead terminals for the whole year. You can't sell them or get a refund. A bunch of Bloomberg's terminals are sitting there. You know how Wall Street's hiring and firing goes. Rapid turnover. So a bunch of Bloomberg's is not even used. You can't get rid of it. It's a 2-year contract, bare minimum. You got to keep paying. So the point is, this subscription model, the history of software has actually gone from enterprise. Yet everything's changing in software. We started with enterprise, where Larry Ellison would come to your office and convince you needed to spend $100 million on his software, ERP software. He would personally convince you. And smaller sales reps would do smaller accounts, but basically they could not service small, medium businesses. There's no business plan here for small, medium businesses. And this was basically the entire 70s to 90s. Then the game changed a bit. We went to a new thing called subscription, or sometimes called SaaS. And basically we said, if you're Adobe, said, cool, pay $50 a month and it'll be a subscription. If you're Salesforce, the same thing. It's a per seat basis, which kind of was a concept that existed in enterprise, but they moved. Now we're doing something called usage-based. This is the future. So this was the 2000s. But this is really the 10s. So this is the new evolution of software. The Bloomberg terminals don't really do a ton of trading. They have a thing called Tradebook that some people do, but most of Bloomberg is not used for trading.